Good morning and welcome. Just a little bit of housekeeping while we wait for people to join us. We are going to be recording this webinar, so if you've booked in via the ICB website, you'll receive a copy of that afterwards by email. And if you've got any questions, please do make use of the Q&A function. It should be in the bottom of your screen, and post a question to us. But also tell us who you are, say hi in the chat, which again, you can get to from the bottom. I imagine you're very good at Zoom meetings now because we're so far into the Zoom world, but I am delighted that you're here today to join us. We've got a whopping 184 people booked in for this webinar, and we realize that your time is precious. It's going to be a wonderful day today. I hope that you're going to get as much as possible out of this webinar. Not least of all because it's a bright sunny day. It happens to be my birthday, but also there has never been a better time to start your bookkeeping business with ICB. And thank you everyone for saying hi and happy birthday. I probably will only mention it a couple more times for the rest of the webinar. But 184 people booked in for today's webinar, and in fact that's very similar to the amount of practices we actually helped set up last year. So I think that was roughly around 189 people starting their business with ICB last year. So I'm actually wondering if you could just put in the chat when you hope to set up your business. Now I know some of you have already done that. Just tell me, are you going to set up your business this year? Are you planning to do it next year? Have you got no idea when you're going to do it? Fantastic. Hi Christine, this year. Kelly, this year. Dulce, what a great name, this year. That sounds fantastic. Well, today I am joined by not just all of you at home or in your office, but also by two fantastic bookkeepers. We've got Lucy Brown, who's actually on staff at ICB. Good morning, Lucy.
Good morning, Amy.
Now you are a bookkeeper and you've run your own practice, but now you've come on side with ICB. Can you just give us a little bit of an introduction?
Yeah, of course. So I started my ICB journey back in 2008, I think, and I did all my exams as a kind of backup. I'd been made redundant, and I thought I needed to have some kind of plan. I was planning on going back into employment, but just in case. So I did my ICB exams. I then got a different job, and I forgot about it. And then I decided I wanted to build my own business. I'd had children, and I was ready to take that step. So I actually redid all my ICB exams, and then got my practice license in 2014. I ran my business as a sole trader, and then in, I think it was 2019, I decided to go limited company, and it was all going very well. I was also doing some voluntary work with the ICB. I'd started and was running the ICB, the Lincolnshire branch, and I'd gone on to the advisory council, which I'm sure Paula will talk about, but is a conduit between the membership and the executive board at ICB, and is a voice for the member. And then in 2021, in April, I joined ICB as their Director of Professional Standards, at which point I sold my business, gave up the actual bookkeeping itself, and have been on the staff since then.
Fantastic. Okay, so you may well know Lucy from if you've been to the Bookkeepers Summit or you've seen any events we've done on anti-money laundering. So we will be pitching any questions to Lucy about professional standards, what's expected of you as a practicing member. So do keep your questions coming. I'd also like to introduce the fantastic Paula Veysey-Smith, who is a member. She's not yet on the ICB staff, but do watch out for that move. Paula, can you give us a little introduction to what you do and how you contribute to ICB?
Thanks, Amy, for the pre-warning. Hi, yes, I'm Paula Veysey-Smith. I'm still in practice. Details behind, I run a practice in Kent called Empower Accounting, Empower Accounting Services. I've qualified with the ICB in about 1998. I don't think I was the first through the door, but I was very close behind. I've been in practice on and off all that time. But also I am the chair of the Advisory Council, which Lucy has just mentioned is a council made up of practicing members. and it is there to represent you as an ICB member or an ICB practice holder, and to, as Lucy said, act as that conduit between membership and executive, where the executive steer where the ICB are going, but are very, very keen to ensure that they're listening to the heartbeat of the membership. So I chair that council at the moment. So yes, dual hat, but I'm basically one of you guys. I'm still out there in private practice. So about, I don't know, was it a couple of years ago? I can't remember. We did run a series of business building day courses to help people who were either thinking of going into practice or just started their practice, to you know, give you some pointers of things to consider and how to build your practice. And you know, if you've got any questions around that sort of area today, please fire them off in the chat or in the what's the other thing, the Q&A, because when you start your practice, or when you're thinking about starting your practice, you often do have 101 things that you're considering. So hopefully, you know, if we can tease some of those out today and start to answer those questions to help you take that next step, that would, you know, be my goal for the session today.
Fantastic. And thank you everybody for posting in the chat, and happy birthday, Tatiana, a fellow Piscean. We're both celebrating our birthdays today. So thank you for joining us on your special day. And welcome, Nicola. You're licensed with AAT. You're doing the bridging unit to come up from AAT to join ICB, which is fantastic. And Gian says also happy birthday, Tatiana. And it's just wonderful to see that so many of you are planning to set up your businesses this year, or Cherie has just set up her business on Valentine's Day. So we're picking these great moments to change our lives. And let me tell you that some people are born bookkeepers, but for a lot of our members, this is a career change. It could be a totally new direction. And that means that no matter how clueless you might feel now, it is absolutely possible. And there is a very clear way to do it, to set up your own business and be very successful. ICB is passionate about bookkeepers. We were set up 25 years ago, and at that time, our founders could see that there were bookkeepers who were incredibly fastidious, very good at their job and crucial to businesses, and yet they didn't have professional qualifications or a professional body behind them. So we were very much set up with the goal of supporting bookkeepers, and we are here to help as many bookkeepers as possible find success. And when we say success, we recognize that that comes in all different forms, and it's going to be very unique to you. So whether that's running a business in an office with staff, like about a third of ICB practices are, or whether that is running a small business off your kitchen table, a couple of days a week around your other commitments, that is also absolutely wonderful, and you've come to the right place to do it. Just a little bit of information for around the sort of practicalities of the practice license. Our requirement is that you do need to be qualified and a member of ICB to get a practice license with us. And the minimum requirement is either that you're a full member, which means that you've reached level 3 standard, or you are a payroll agent. So if you want to just provide payroll services for your clients, you can get a practice license if you're a payroll agent, or for that matter, an associate with the letters PMDIP after your name, or a member. PMDIP stands for Payroll Management Diploma. So there's sort of 2 possible routes, but actually a lot of our members end up doing everything because that is what their clients demand of them. And you will probably find that when you run your business, your clients do start asking you for those additional services. I don't know if that kind of resonates with you, Lucy. Were clients asking you for stuff, or were you kind of forcing additional services on them?
Oh, a bit of give and take really, but I absolutely agree. It is very easy to set out to do particular services and just stick to that. And if that's what you sell to your client, then that's what they're expecting of you. But it is those extra bits that are just the value add as well. So if you, I think Paula would agree that if you just want to do basic bookkeeping, you could go into a limited company and do that for them, and then it hands over to an accountant to do all the extras. But as a bookkeeper, you can qualify to do all those extras, and that's where, yeah, you provide value add to your clients, and you get that end-to-end process, and obviously that you get paid for that. So you add to your revenue if you do those services. But yeah, you will get clients that ask you for bookkeeping, and then they're like, oh, actually, could you do my self-assessment as well? No, I'm going to take on a member of staff. Can you do the payroll? So yes, I think if you want to grow your business, that's the way you can go about that. Obviously, we do say as well that if you want to offer those services but you're not qualified, you could take on a subcontractor to do those other bits, and you work alongside another bookkeeper. You can get those business relationships working in your favor as well. But yeah, you've got choices, definitely.
Fantastic. Paula, what is the range of services you offer your clients? And could you tell us a little bit about the size of your practice and how you run it?
Yeah, sure. We offer all services to our clients. In fact, I'm a companion of the Institute, fellow foremost before that. So we do offer all services. But and the size of my practice, I took the decision about 4 years ago to sort of push the button. So the kids have left home. I had more time. I was working with a small team, but I thought it was time to step up, perhaps another level. So I now have a team of 5, myself and 5. Or is it myself and 4? It's terrible. I can never remember how many people I've got, but it's all correct at the ICB. It's just when I'm put on the spot, because it's always changing. We're actually looking for a new bookkeeper at the moment. So the practice is quite large now. It's definitely one of the it's one of the bigger practices in the ICB, but for me, it's the size of practice that I've wanted. You know, it's a proper business now. We employ a couple of people and we subcontract. We have a mixture of how we use people. So it's a reasonably sized business. We're over 70 clients now, self-assessments and limited companies, payroll, VATs, bookkeeping, and a certain amount of year-end accounts. But having said that, you know, when I started my bookkeeping practice, I was very much somebody who went into small limited companies in my area and did the bookkeeping. And that was back in the day when you looked at newspapers, local newspapers, to find adverts for jobs. And I used to go down the adverts for accounting and bookkeeping, whatever. And you'd often find adverts for a bookkeeper needed 2 days a week. And I would ring the businesses up and said, have you thought of freelance? You know, I could come in, you know, and freelance and do the books. And most of the companies I spoke to hadn't thought of that back then, whereas I think now it's much more commonplace. And I very often got my foot in the door and very often got the position. So my background was very much bookkeeping for local businesses. And, you know, back then, cloud applications didn't exist. So you did go into the office and you'd probably get the worst desk in the office and the slowest computer. And your sole job was to move the pile of paper on that side of the desk to that side of the desk or in files. And things have changed a lot since then, but I think it's important to always think of your starting point. Where am I going to start? Where am I going to get out there? Where am I going to find my clients? What clients am I looking for? What sort of service do I want to provide? So I'm now here sitting on a 6-figure business, and this should be a wig for the amount of time I'm tearing my hair out. But no, I love it. I love running the business. But you know, we all have to start somewhere, and that's kind of how I started. And you know, I've taken the journey to where I am now.
Fantastic. And what I probably would say is we certainly would advise you to think about where you're going. And actually, at the end of this webinar, we'll be sending you each a worksheet and a little checklist to at least prompt some of the action that you might want to take after this webinar. But I would say also, do write notes. You probably are because you're bookkeepers, but do write notes so you can remember what's happened and what really resonated with you, because you are very busy, and a million things will happen as soon as you're off this webinar. You're probably dual screening as we speak. But also don't let, this is actually, Paula, this is one of your favorite phrases. Don't let, what is it? Don't let.
Get it right.
Be the,
okay, the phrase is don't let perfect get in the way of good.
There we go.
Sometimes when we step out there to get clients, we think we have to get it all right. Well, I'll just say now, you won't. And, get yourself set up, get going, just get out there. So I think, sometimes we do let perfect get in the way of good. I've just noted Rebecca Williams. Did you initially look to use subcontractors, and is there a recommended list of ICB members? I don't believe there is a recommended list, but if you do decide to use a subcontractor, the first thing you must do is just ensure the practice license is valid with the ICB. And I believe, Amy, correct me if I'm wrong, that you can just phone in and give the practice license number, and they will confirm whether the person is actually a valid practice license holder. And thank you, Karen, for your very kind comment there.
I'd also say with the trying to find a subcontractor, if you look at the directory on the website, you can put in your postcode and find people local to you, and it will list what they are qualified to provide. So if you're looking somewhere local to you, that's probably the best place to start looking. Also, if they're on the directory, they have a practice license. That's right, isn't it, Amy? Everything's in date and up to speed. So.
Yes, and that's Find a Bookkeeper in the top menu of the website. Find a Bookkeeper is on the right-hand side. You can just click on that and have a look at them. Likewise, if you are already running your practice, which I think about 20 of you are, it's a good idea to just check your listing in the practice directory and make sure that everything's on there. Because in fact, T. Luke has asked the question, if you do payroll as well, do you need to have a qualification? We say, yes, you do. And you may well have an alternative payroll qualification, but we are almost the only payroll qualifier in the land, because payroll is one of those things that changes all the time, as you well know if you do it. So we would really recommend that you take the ICB payroll qualification. Like all of our qualifications, it's available on demand and online. So you could take that as soon as you get off this webinar, or you could take it tonight when the kids are in bed. And there's not really anything stopping you from completing that. We do also have textbooks available on the website if you want to study beforehand. And there are also lots of good accredited training providers as well who can help you with that. But if you go to the practice directory, as Lucy says, the list of ICB licensed services will show. So if you're a practice license holder, it should show everything that you're qualified for. And if there are any discrepancies, give us a call and we can try and sort that out with you. And yeah, fantastic. Just, I was thinking actually, Paula, about what you said about the olden days. It sounds like bookkeepers don't know how good they've got it today, but the olden days when there was no online accounting software. But obviously now we live in a very connected world. And Andrea has posted something to say she's actually living in Barbados. So how cool is that? Thank you for joining us all the way from Barbados. We're only slightly jealous of, I'm sure, what the weather is like.
Yes, I mean, I did think actually, it's a slightly unusual situation. So as the business builder, I should visit and help this lady set a practice up.
That is a very good idea. We've got a training for in the Bahamas, I think, but maybe not in Barbados. But Andrea is just saying she wants to set up her business and work virtually. And in fact, a lot of our members do that. So, Paula, you don't have an office, do you?
I did have an office. It was a very small office, it was more like a hub. But we had an office, and your business will kind of have a life of its own, and it tends to change and develop, and it might kind of go a direction you weren't expecting it to. And it became very apparent in August 2019 that the office was kind of redundant. I tend to, many of my staff are working mums, so there was no point in asking them to perhaps travel an hour a day, half an hour there and half an hour home, when they've got 4 or 5 hours, golden hours, what I call them, in the day. So we gave the office up in 2019, and of course COVID hit in 2020. So I did get quite a lot of comments of, how did you know that was going to happen? And it was, well, I didn't, but, you know, I'm very thankful I gave the office up. And in the last few, well, since then, I've really, the thing I'm developing in my business, it doesn't matter how far down the road you are in your business, you will always be thinking of new ideas and always be developing. You've always got to be doing that. Is we're very much a virtual practice, and I've invested in a VPN, so anyone on my team can work anywhere, even in the Barbados. I might be on the phone to see if you'd like to help me and my team. So we're very much looking to encourage and bring on clients who want bookkeeping done virtually, but we're not twisting people's arms. And I think bookkeeping has now become one of those services that are outsourced, and a lot of people want done virtually, and that's, I would say, more the market now. There are still those people who like people to come in. We do go and see our clients. We do pop in and see our clients. It's not like we're faceless, but the basic work, because of the new applications, you can just sit and get it done at home. There's no need to have an office. There's no need to go into clients every week to do the work. And I think that's one of the strengths of bookkeeping at the moment.
Fantastic. Well, actually, Flora says she's hoping to eventually travel whilst working remotely. We've got Caroline here who lives in Spain, but doesn't have a permanent address in the UK. Lucy, can you see any problems sort of regarding the conduct regulations with traveling or not having a UK address?
With traveling, no, it's absolutely fine. There's as long as if your clients are in the UK, we need you to have money laundering supervision and obviously comply with the legislation that belongs in the country of your client. We do require that when we provide a practice license, we need to verify all the booms, so the business owners, officers and managers. And as part of that, we require a proof of address and photo ID and a criminal check. So there may be issues if you don't have a permanent UK address. I would have to go back to the compliance team on that one as to what we do to provide practice licenses for those that aren't living in the UK. So I'm not entirely certain on that one, I'm afraid.
But it's possibly something to do with the criminal record check. So because I'm pretty sure we've got practice license holders actually in Spain as well. I had a conversation about it last week, and it's not a problem to provide a practice license. I just actually hadn't thought of that, the actual practicalities of issuing it. So we'll have a look into that and get back to people, if that's all right. Thank you, Caroline. Yeah, so Caroline's just sort of said, yeah, it is the basic disclosure certificate. So just for anybody who doesn't know, it is the law that as a supervisor of a bookkeeping practice, we cannot approve you to practice unless you can give us a criminal record check to confirm that you haven't committed any fraud-related crimes, as per Regulation 26 of the money laundering regulations.
Yes, it is. Yeah. So right. It's Schedule 3 offences that we are concerned with.
Schedule 3 offences, which are sort of, in layman's term, fraud-related offences. Now, also, we do have a requirement. You can't be a member of ICB if you've got certain criminal offences on your record anyway. So if you've got any concerns about that, you can always give us a call or you can send us an email and we can discuss that with you. But as part of being a practicing bookkeeper, so that means you are invoicing clients for your services, or even if you're working voluntarily under most circumstances, so you're operating your own business or working as a bookkeeper as a business, you are required to have a supervisor under the money laundering regulation. So that applies to outsourced accountants, bookkeepers, and also estate agents, lawyers, and people like that. But you are part of the designated professions. And as such, we would supervise you under our practice license scheme. And under certain circumstances, we can also supervise non-members. For example, we supervise farm secretaries who are members of the Institute of Agricultural Secretaries and Administrators. So we take our role as a supervisor very seriously. And it is something that whilst you are practicing as a bookkeeper with us, we will monitor your compliance with the money laundering regulations. I don't know if there's any other information you'd like to say about that, Lucy, because that's very much Lucy's area of expertise. Any sort of key headlines to consider?
A few headlines. So yes, I think as Amy said, you are in a regulated profession or coming into one, and as such, you do need to comply. ICB are obligated to ensure that you are complying. We do checks, and unfortunately, we are obligated to sanction and penalise members who are not complying. Now that sounds really scary, but as Paula can say through experience, and I as a member had an inspection, it is possible to comply. It is not hard. It's not all that onerous if you get all your ducks in a row from the outset. On the ICB website, there's an awful lot of guidance regarding money laundering regulations. There's a great AML to-do list, which if you go through, it's a 21-point to-do list. Go through all of those, you will be compliant. Now, I think I'm right in saying, Amy, that until you have a practice license, that's a restricted area of the website.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
However, once you get your practice license, it's all there. We're not going to come knocking on your door on day one. You have a chance to put everything in place, and we are here to help you. The AML team have a designated email address, which is aml@bookkeepers.org.uk. So any questions regarding AML, they can go to that email address, and one of the team will get back to you with an answer. Other than that, there's lots of guidance on the website once you get access to that area. Recorded webinars, all the information is there. Please take the time to look at it. Take the time to Google the money laundering regulations and see what will be required of you. Join the other webinar that we do once you are at that point of getting a practice license. Join the new practice license webinar, and I'll take you through in a bit more detail of what the information is, where to find it. So I think that's probably all I can say for the moment, Amy.
Yeah, fantastic. And also there is an MLR page of the website as well that you've got a little bit of access to. So there's the kind of homepage of the MLR hub, and then an AML overview, which just really explains it again in layman's terms for people like me, because I've got a marketing and communications background. The crux of it is you've got to know your client. And the real reason behind it is that bookkeepers, because you're certified, because you are the best of the best and you're regulated, it is possible for criminals to use you to legitimize the sources of their money. So essentially, they're going to be using you to make them look good. So that is the risk that we're trying to mitigate. And it's incredibly straightforward. Yes, you've got to do a bit of work, but if you're anything like the majority of ICB members, you are naturally a triple checker. And so it will come very easy to you. And also we've got an online platform through which you can log all of your due diligence, and it links in with Companies House. So you'll get information about any limited companies, who their directors are. So it does a little bit of the work for you. It will risk rate them for you according to the regulations set out. So we do try to make it as straightforward as possible. And as Lucy said, we've got a really friendly team of AML experts there to help you. Now, somebody has asked the question, does an IVA stop me from obtaining a practice license? I don't think it does. There are certain circumstances where it may have an impact on your membership. So again, you can call us about that. And there is some information in a form you can fill in to provide more detail.
It won't necessarily prevent you getting one, but we do ask quite a lot of detail around it. And they're all considered on a case-by-case basis. just pointing out, Joanna said that the AML checklist is available to download from the AML forms and checklist area of the website. So anyone can download that to see what they need to do ahead of getting a practice license, it appears. So that's really great. And Flora's asked when the new practice license webinar is. They're monthly. The next one's actually this afternoon at 2 o'clock.
At 2 o'clock. And you can come. You can come even if you don't have a practice license. You're more than welcome if you're just super into webinars today and you've got the time. And again, if you register on the website, you will receive a recording. So you've got that option as well. Somebody has asked if you can get your practice license while you're still studying. Technically, yes. Obviously, ICB is absolutely all about lifelong learning. So in a sense, you may be learning every day, but you do need to have a minimum level of membership and qualification to apply. So that's either as a payroll agent or a full member of ICB. So you will have needed a level 3 qualification, either in payroll or in bookkeeping. And then what quite often happens is that practice license holders then continue on to the level 4 to add those additional services. So the level 4 is quite cool because you don't have to take all of it. So it's not a huge commitment and you can just pick the modules that suit you and suit the needs of your clients. So there's self-assessment tax, corporation tax, final accounts, which we call financial statements. So that's those annual accounts to Companies House. And then also business insight, which just helps you if you are providing management accounts to your clients, which is such a massive value add and just helps you further those conversations with your clients. I'm wondering, Paula, do you do any management accounts? What does that kind of look like? And what sort of cadence, if I can use that word, cadence do you have with meeting your clients? I know you said you pop in with them, but do you see them sort of once a month or does it depend?
It depends on what the client would like, and it also depends on how you define meeting, because so much stuff has happened over Zoom and is very easy. So, you know, some clients we would, the bookkeeper would go in more regularly. Some clients we only have contact with once a quarter because we do the bookkeeping around the VAT return. So the relationship very much sort of kind of takes its own form as you're going forward. Most of my clients are very local, so meeting with them is not a problem. So there's no hard and fast rules, and it kind of what works with that relationship with your client in terms of meeting with them. In terms of management accounting, we have one client who we do quarterly reports for, and it's mainly driven by the information on Xero, but he quite likes printouts of certain reports, the profit and loss, the balance sheet, the quarterly profit and loss. So, and I've just been asked by another client because they want to put a business plan together and they need to do financials for that. So the management accounting is very driven by what your client would like. And the thing to bear in mind is the reason why we do bookkeeping, the reason why we have accounting is because statutorily you have to, because you need to record your information to pay your taxes. That's the reason why it all happens. But the second reason is very, very much that information that you gather when you're doing the accounts could be incredibly useful to the business owner in terms of helping them drive their business forward. You know, what is working, what isn't working. Very often if I go into a new client meeting and I ask the question, when did you last review your costs? Something very, very simple. Well, when did you last look at the mobile phones that you're using for your team? When did you last, look at your, perhaps mention energy costs is not the best one at the moment, but it's that sort of thing. You can sometimes ask some very simple questions that the business owner hasn't even considered because they're too busy running their business. So we do our best to help our clients at every level. It's not just a case of going in and tap, here's your books, but it's a case of looking at the information and saying, did you realise that although you think your pink skinny jeans for men is your best seller, the figures would actually say that might be a line you might not want to continue at the moment. And I think that is the mark of a good bookkeeper, is the mark of an ICB bookkeeper, we're not just sitting there going tappity tap, tap, tap. We're also using those figures to help our clients make better decisions. I quite like that phrase, As an ICB bookkeeper, you don't go tappity tap tap tap. I think we'll keep that one.
I spend quite a lot of my day tappity tap tap tapping.
Yes, there is a lot of tappity tap tap tap. But it's about bringing those insights to the business owners, giving them the reassurance, the clarity, and empowering them to run a better business, or just be spending less time faffing around with Excel, because we can do it for them.
Hence the name of my business, Empower Accounting, empowering my clients to run their business.
There we go. Just to confirm, Yardley, if you want to attend this afternoon's webinar, which goes into a bit more information about the anti-money laundering regulations and where to find some of the key resources, you will need to book in via the ICB website. So go to our website /events and book into that event. And you will receive a recording to this webinar by email probably tomorrow, and that will have a little worksheet just to give you some places to start. And they're just, as we would just, I think we're still just talking a little bit about the practicalities of applying for the practice license. There's a couple of questions in the Q&A about exemptions. T. Luke is an ACCA finalist. Congratulations, very impressive. We actually have a lot of ACCA people come to us on the route towards becoming fully ACCA qualified, partly because I'm sure it took you quite a long time, T. Luke, so very well done to you for that. We do offer exemptions for people who have other qualifications. So if you're with one of the top bodies, ACCA, ICAW, CIMA, AAT, you could quite feasibly get some exemptions into ICB membership. And unlike some other bodies, we do also reward you for your working experience. So somebody here has asked about that. I can't remember who. So somebody has asked about that as well. If you've got work experience, yes, that was it. Somebody's done their payroll in 2016 and then went into employment in a finance department, just wondering about retaking that payroll qualification. I think the best thing for you to do is give us a call, ask to speak to Anthony. He usually knows exactly what he's talking about, and he's lovely, and he will talk you through the process of getting that qualification back up on your account, hopefully through work experience if you can do. Again, though, it's a 3-hour exam. It's probably even quite enjoyable to do it. Somebody has asked about the payroll courses on the website. I think possibly you're referring to the textbooks. We do update those textbooks every single year. So Ajibola, you're actually quite right. It is good to get the latest textbook as an update. But if you're sort of new to payroll, just get the latest book. So it's 21/22. And that is, yeah, as I say, refreshed every year. There's also, if you're a payroll agent, there is a list of all the latest regulations, and you don't call them regulations, do you? I don't think, but we've got all the latest tax tables and things like that on the payroll agents page of the website, which actually has been renamed to Payroll and Pensions. Let me see, rates and allowances, that was the word I was looking for. So you can download all of this year's and last year's tax rates and allowances from the ICB website, which is quite cool. And yes, Emma Neal is asking about exemptions as well. If I've got exemptions and I do the entry exam, what level can I join at? Well, that's a very complex question. You've got your CAT and 20+ years experience. Well, that sounds fantastic. Again, give us a call, because every case is different. And what we require you to do is send us evidence of your qualifications. We require a referee who can say how fantastic you are, and they confirm against our syllabus what areas they're familiar with you being good at. And then we also, yes, as you say, we require you to do at least one entry exam. Again, it's online. And we try to make that process as easy as possible, but you will be ID'd as part of that. And there's quite a lot of due diligence we do as well. But it's not unheard of for somebody to apply for membership and get that within a month. But usually the sticking point is that membership entrance exam. But that's because we've got very high pass marks and we're very proud of them. So congratulations, everyone who has managed to pass their exams. I thought possibly Paula was going to say something then.
I've just noticed on the chat, Peter Davies put up, how do I choose a business name? to pick up on that, because it's always a question that pops up, and my answer is I think any business name can go. Some people use their initials, KDP, bookkeeping and accounting, that's fine. I've got this empower, and my whole theme there was to empower the business owner to run their own business. I've got a few names. Claire Allen has Team 4 Bookkeeping. I think she was thinking Team 4 Secretarial. So this Team 4 has sort of been her name. We've got Kirsty's Counting. So, there's all sorts of names that you can use, preferably no swear words in them. I'm not entirely sure the ICB would endorse a name with rude words in it. One of my favourite stories is when we were doing the business builder workshops, we had a lady who had ginger hair, and she said, well, I want to call myself Ginger Accounting. What do you think? I thought it was great, because you kind of tied it into something about yourself and it will stick out a bit. So when it comes to names, there's no real hard and fast rules. I would say when you think of a name, you might want to think about branding. Branding seems like a bit of a big word, but it's not. It's for myself, I've got Empire Accounting, and the colour pink is very much something that I use. You can see by my fingernails as well as I wave them around. So you might want to think of the whole package of, well, I'm going to call myself this. So I don't know, you might want to call yourself Piggy Bank Accounting or Pinky Bank Bookkeeping, and then when you develop a website, you'd have lots of pictures of piggy banks going around. So when it comes to choosing a name, there really aren't any hard and fast rules. But if you can think of a name and sort of tie it into a theme when you perhaps develop a business card or your website, then you've just got to what's going to stick out, what's going to make people remember who you are. So as I said, there's no hard and fast rules, but they are some of the things you might want to consider when you're thinking about your name.
And Irina Peel has gone for Green Fingers Accounting, as I love gardening. That sounds like a great idea.
Perfect. And then with your website, make sure you've got lots of perhaps plants and images that sort of back that message up, because then people will remember you. And you could have instead of business cards, you can have business leaves. You could, cut the shape of a leaf and give it out. It's all about getting people to remember who you are. We're not talking gimmicks and games, but if you imagined you're called that, and then your business card was in the shape of a leaf and you handed it out, you'd be remembered. And that's what it's all about.
I wonder if it might be a good moment to talk a bit about, so we've talked a little bit about sort of finding out who you are and how you're going to differentiate yourself. But what about who your client is? How important is it to consider what sort of clients you want to work with?
That's an interesting question, because when you set out, you basically want any client, don't you? You're kind of like, I just need any client. As I said, when I started out, I very much identified that my bookkeeping was finding these small limited companies going in and doing their bookkeeping. I didn't really do that much around what we call around the kitchen table. And I used the papers and then the internet to find these positions. Yes, I think it is important to really think about the sort of client that you want to attract, even in those early days, as I said, when you just want to attract any client. But what is the client I want to attract? Because then that does help you to decide your name, help you to decide how you present yourself, help you to decide where you're looking for clients. So we're looking for clients who want bookkeeping done virtually. So I'm not going to respond to any adverts that say we need a bookkeeper to come in-house, because that's not what we do at our best. So although in your early days, as I said, you just want to get a few clients through the door, even then think about, who do I really want to work with? There was a comment further up in the chat. I think somebody said he was looking to specialise with people in the music industry. And that's really good. A few years ago, we were talking about an ICB practice, and they'd specialised with dentists. So they, instead of working geographically, saying, well, my client area is 20 miles from my home, they sort of got knowledge how to work with dentists, and therefore were attracting dentists from all over the place to work with them, because they knew how to to do the books and how to handle that type of bookkeeping. So yes, of course, as I said, when you first get going, any client will do. Somebody said to me, what's your perfect client? I said, one that breathes and pays my bills. But even when you start off, you might start thinking, actually, who is it I really like working with? What is the type of work I really enjoy doing? And start building your practice around attracting that type of client and knowing where to find that type of client as well.
And I think with experience, you get a feel for those people that ring you up, and you are able to say, actually, no, you don't fit my business model. Let me take your details and I'll ask a colleague to ring you, or you find ways of identifying those people that are not going to fit your business model and passing them up. It's also important to remember that actually you can disengage a client. If you take someone on and they're not right for you, don't be afraid to actually say that and disengage them. You've got to give your notice period, but you've got to be true to yourself, and you will not grow your business if you are taking on the wrong clients. And invariably you will take on some wrong clients, and you will probably get your pricing wrong at some point. But you have to be brave and talk to these people and either say, I need to up my prices because this isn't working for either of us, or I'm going to stop doing your bookkeeping. How about you contact so and so, or you just find a way to disengage in a polite and professional manner.
Can I just add to that? And it's really hard to say this, but I've learned this through bitter experience, that if you feel that the client who wants to engage with you is just not right for you at any level, you will find that those clients you take on that you had a doubt about in the first place will become your marginal client, because they will be demanding, or they won't pay your invoice on time, or you try and put a price increase in and they get really flustered about it. And I call it spidey sense. I don't know if anybody else knows what I mean by that, but if you kind of get that sort of sense from the get-go that this client's not going to work for you, please be brave and don't take them on, because you will rue the day you've taken them on. And Luce is quite right, you can disengage clients, but it's much better not to have taken them on in the first place. And you just know when a client's going to be trouble, because they're the one who demand the lowest prices and yet are consistently contacting you with demands. So it's a very difficult one, that. And again, when you're first starting off, you might think, well, any client that breathes and pays, I'm going to take on. But if you do get that sense that they're just not right for your practice, or you just aren't going to be able to work well with them, then I would say be brave and pass them over.
Fantastic. Also, if you do have a potentially good client who just doesn't fit your business model, the branch network is a really good place to pass them over. So we didn't mention it before when we talked about subcontractors, but we have lots of branches. They're all meeting virtually, and you can go if you're a student or a member. You don't have to have a practice license. And one of the number one reasons people go, in fact, is to share clients, to give clients away. So, you will be developing, I think, within your practice, this sort of little black book of accountants you like working with, other bookkeepers who will take on clients. So that is very valuable, and certainly a really good way to make use of the ICB network is to go to those branches. And you can go to branches up and down the UK at the moment because they're virtual. So don't be shy. We are also setting up a pop-up Facebook group just for you guys and people who come to this webinar. So you can actually carry on the discussions. And somebody was posting earlier about having an accountability partner. You are more than welcome to find accountability partners. And I would say, if you just step outside of your comfort zone and go and introduce yourself in the Facebook group, it is going to be private, and we'll send a link afterwards. Just step outside of your comfort zone. You're going to be doing it all the time when you're approaching clients. So tell us who you are, what your plan is, share successes that you've got or challenges. post some ideas, say, do you know, is it a weird idea to do this leaf business card thing? And see if you can get some feedback, some Facebook feedback. It was Frederick, in fact, who posted about niching into the music industry because that's his background. And what a great idea to do something that you know. But he has asked the question, if he's got his kind of niche music business, bookkeeping, but then also he wants to offer a wider service, a sort of slightly more generic service, should he set up 2 practice licenses and have 2 different websites with different company names? And is that okay? Is there anything to consider there?
It's absolutely fine to have more than one practice license. You need a practice license for each business if you are running them separately. So yes, that's absolutely fine. It is obviously double the fees, and you would need to keep all your AML paperwork for each practice. So they would need to be considered separately. But yeah, we have plenty of people with multiple practices.
Fantastic. One other thing to mention is that you need to have professional indemnity insurance. That's not a legal requirement. That is our requirement of our practicing members. And that protects you if there's any dispute over your professional conduct as a bookkeeper. So there was a question, somebody had previously asked the question to Alex, so thank you for sending that through. The question was, what level of cover should I have? Now, the ICB requirement is that you have at least a minimum indemnity of £50,000. And we would say as a guide, you shouldn't have that indemnity any less than 2.5 times your turnover. Now, obviously, when you're first starting out, how do you know what your turnover is going to be? And I will ask Paul about that actually, but what I would say is, the insurance is not going to be your biggest cost, actually. I think the difference between getting an indemnity of 50k versus 100k is probably about £10 a year. There is a recommended supplier on our website called Kudos. We've been running our preferred scheme with them for years and years and years. And actually, we've had very few claims and none of them have even gone over 50k, if I'm allowed to say that. But we're not insurance providers, we're not regulated to give you advice on that. So this is purely as a guide. But there is some information, on our website about that. But Paula, what sort of turnover can somebody expect to have? Does it matter if you're a sole trader or a limited company? How would one go about kind of forecasting that, do you think?
Well, it's interesting. I've just done my insurance a couple of weeks ago, and I jumped a bracket. And in fact, the company I was using were going to charge me £8,000 a year. So that was a classic. We're buying out of the market now, so they're obviously very interested in smaller entities. And my advice would be just go with the basic to start off with, because if you do get phenomenal growth, you can always ring the insurance broker and say, hey, my situation's changed. And I believe Kudos, who I've now gone with, so it wasn't Kudos who did that. I thought their charging was very, very fair. And you will have to fill the questions in about whether you're a sole trader or a limited company, whether you employ staff, what your turnover is. So you could shop around. I mean, there's Hiscox. I actually do my employee insurance through Hiscox. I've got professional indemnity. I don't have public liability. I don't see any need for public liability in the line of work we're in. It's not like we're hosting Empower events. So, but when you start off, and usually it's banded, so up to 50,000, 50 to 100,000 professional indemnity insurance, 100 to 150,000. But I would very much just go with the lower banding, unless you know you're going to start off with a turnover of 70,000 because you've got people knocking at your door. And as I said, it can always be upgraded if things go better than you expect. Do be honest. Don't kind of just put 50,000 down because that gives you a cheap quote. Because one day you might need to use that insurance. But I would say, when you're starting out, there's no need to go for bigger policies. As I said, if you grow quickly, go back to the broker and say the circumstances have changed. And then when it comes to renewal day, look at your figures, look at where you're at, and fill the policy form in correctly to see what premium you're going to get. But Kudos did a very, very good premium for my size of business. I know some people who've got bigger businesses actually go to brokers to get prices, but you have to be kind of turning over, so about $250,000 before, or 200,000 up before that may become relevant. It seems like 150,000 plus seems to be a magic number for changing premiums from the research I did. So yes, get the insurance in place. Kudos I would recommend, because that's who I use, and unless there's any specific reason, go for the lower banding, but then change it if you need to.
Right, we've still got so much to discuss. So let's continue for a little while, see if we can get through some of these questions. Just to say, Peter, you asked about contracts and letters of engagement. There is absolutely a template letter of engagement on our website with some guidance that is available to you when you've got a practice license. And just to clarify, for Trish and Daniela and M. Robinson, we do require you to have the practice license before you begin trading. So even if you've got a website and you are just prospecting for business, if you're handing business cards out, that is considered to be trading, even if you don't have those clients. If you've got any questions about that, you can always just give us a call and we can clarify that. It would be the professional standards team really that can help you, I'm sure, Lucy, on that one.
Yep.
And yes, this is an investment. I know that obviously you're worried that you're going to be spending your money without getting any money in. This is an investment in your future. So do please take it seriously. Do write out a basic business plan, and you're a bookkeeper. Budget for this. Figure out what you need to survive, where the rest of your income is coming in, and you are going to have to reach out to the people in your family and your network for support. You've got to tell everybody that this is your journey, this is what you're doing, and they are going to have to be there to support you, whether that means coming home from work early to cook the tea for the kids, whether it means giving you some private time to study at the weekend. You need to take this seriously. Bookkeeping is not one of these, I don't want to put you off. Bookkeeping is not a sort of lifestyle business that you can, that is easy. It is satisfying. There is a very specific route to success for you, but there are lots and lots of requirements for you to consider. You will be working with all sorts of different businesses, and they will have different requirements from you and different ways of working. So don't be afraid to really sit down and figure this one out. Now, somebody did ask about the ICO, Trish, about registering with the ICO. We require you to register with them, the Information Commissioner's Office. That again, it's not going to break the bank. I think it's under 50 quid, 20 quid or something a year.
£35?
35. It always was £35,
something like that. But again, it's going to give you the peace of mind, which I think you will really appreciate. And there is a data protection policy on the website as well, and some guidance around that, because you are going to be in a very trusted position, aren't you, working with your clients, and they are going to give you some personal information. Particularly, one of the requirements of the money laundering regulations is that you ID people. You ID your clients. There we go. Shireen, thank you. It's £40 per annum, or £35 per annum if you do a direct debit. So there we go. It is an additional cost, but stick that in an Excel spreadsheet and budget for it. Now, I don't know what we think is the sort of, a couple of people have asked about pricing, and I don't know if we've got a few kind of bits of advice around pricing and how many, do we know how many clients people are sort of generally acquiring within the first years? I know we did a webinar with Chrissy Applin, who had 21 clients within the first, I think it was first 8 months of her practice. But obviously that's going to depend, isn't it?
I think that depends on what services you're offering very much. If you've got the self-assessment tax return qualification, you can bump your numbers up quite a lot, but you might not necessarily bump your revenue up at the same level, because that's generally an annual one-off payment. depends whether you do their bookkeeping as well. But so again, it's not about the number of clients. It's about what you do for them, and again, what you're charging, and pricing is a really big topic. It's not something that we can just give you an answer to.
If I can jump in on the back of the pricing question, and you know, we could do a whole webinar on pricing. There are so many different permutations of what and how you can do it, but I think there are certain few rules. Is you can get excited about your turnover, but actually it's your bottom line that's more important. I can go and buy 100 iPhones for, oh God, I have to do some maths without my calculator, but I could go buy 100 iPhones for £100, go out on a market stall and sell 100 iPhones for 50 quid each. I'm going to be losing money, but I'll go home with a lot of cash in my pocket, but effectively I've lost money. So, you know, you've got to think about pricing. The two things I think are really important are, one, don't undersell yourself. Be bold. You're qualified, you're regulated, you are as good as bookkeepers can get. And if somebody wants to take one because you're cheap as chips, then do you really want that as your first client? And it is very tempting to discount or just go, oh, well, I'll only charge so much because I've just started. You really need to know your value, and that will help you tap into the clients who understand your value. So those clients who just think you're going back to the days. I used to call myself a mushroom because I used to have a desk in the bottom office. And, you know, the reason why I called myself a mushroom was because, you know, we sat in the dark and did our work, and every once in a while the door was open and manure was thrown upon us, just like mushrooms live in the dark and, you know, get manure thrown upon them. So, you know, that sort of element of feeling, you know, like a mushroom bookkeeper, you know, you don't want to be that. You want to show that you're worth every penny that you charge. So be bold with your pricing, because I'm just going through putting price increases in. I try and do it every year. I haven't done it for a couple of years because of COVID. I hate doing it, if I'm being honest, because I just know that I'm probably going to face a few discussions about it. But it is, if you go in low, it's going to take you a long time to get that pricing up to where it should be. So be bold with your pricing, be realistic with your pricing. And if somebody says, well, that's too much, then, you know, they're probably not the right client for you. There are different pricing strategies. I'm not going to go into that now. But as I said, with pricing, you know, if anybody's charging less than £25 an hour, you really shouldn't be charging less, I would say, to a client than £25 an hour. You've taken a lot of time to get here. Amy's also spoken about, yeah, and you've got costs, you've got hurdles, you need to do your own budgets. So you are now running your own business. And so, you know, don't undersell yourself with your pricing. I just noticed, actually, Trish put up a comment about, I'm also a voluntary treasurer, and I believe that it is a charity. I believe that as it's a charity, it's not required. I'm assuming she's talking about putting it on AML there.
I think it possibly was the insurance.
Oh, okay, that's fine. I was just saying, the thing I wanted to pick up there, which is slightly off pricing, sorry, going off piste, is if you have got a practice and you are doing voluntary roles, please do put them on your AML. I'm actually the treasurer of a local business association. I do my husband's books. So anything like that I would put on AML.
They are a client even if you aren't charging them.
So there we go. And what you've got to remember is you're an ICB bookkeeper. So if you're qualified, they're not asking you to volunteer as the treasurer because you're there. They're asking because you're qualified and you're knowledgeable. So there is an onus on you to do it properly. So just to say, there is lots of demand for pricing webinars. We'll talk about that. When you've got a practice license, you do get access to extra pages of the website. There's information about how to have your first meeting with the client, how much to charge, and that is sort of behind the gateway, if you wish, because we do require you to have, and it is a legal requirement, that you are supervised before you start your bookkeeping business. So there's some information about that. And I would just say, regards pricing, price for profit. Don't price to break even. Don't think, well, it's just me and my desk and it's my time. You are worth more than that, absolutely, as Paula has said. Just to say, we do have a guide called the Starting Your Bookkeeping Business Guide. It's an A4 guide that at the moment we're sending via email, and that has got the application for your practice license in it. It's got the information about everything you've got to think about before you start your business, and also information about the professional indemnity insurance. So if you don't yet have that in your possession, please do give us a call and request it, or you can send an email. It's the Starting Your Bookkeeping Business Guide, and it's a really good kind of launch pad for this journey for you.
Can I just jump in, because I've just seen it on the Q&A. It's another massive question that always comes up. It's an anonymous attendee about, do you advise starting a self-employed or limited company? I've had two practices. My first one, I was self-employed. It was called Accountability. I think it was quite clever. You all clap in the chat. And then I actually became a director of a company. Then I came back and set up Empower Accounting. It's a limited company. And my advice is, unless there is a specific reason why you think a limited company is the best way for you to start, do start as self-employed, because it's a much simpler format and a much simpler way to start. And then, you know, you're doing your self-assessment tax returns. Then I would say the next important thing is, one, if you start as self-employed, you can go to limited company. And I know, Lucy, just before you joined the ICB, you'd taken that step. So that is something that you can do. Limited company is slightly more complex. It comes with, it probably does come with benefits still, with the dividends. But I think the advice I would give out is a limited company is a great vehicle for your practice if you intend to grow. So if you're looking and thinking, I want to grow, I want to employ people, I want to have subcontracts, I want to have a six-figure practice, then certainly I would advise looking at a limited company. But if you're just starting out, you know, I'm very much a KISS principle. Keep it simple. I think it's keep it simple, stupid, but I don't want to say anybody's stupid here. So either is fine. If there's a particular reason why you really feel limited company is the best vehicle for you to start with, that's fine. But otherwise, I'd get yourself rolling at self-employed, and then perhaps review as you go along. Lucy, I don't know if you've got a comment on that.
No, I think you're right. Unless you've got a specific reason to be limited, why would you make it more complicated for yourself? There is no, although it's a faff, it's not hard to change from sole trader to limited when you decide that that's what you need. And as Paula said, I'd got to that stage in my business where I was like, I either stay small and kind of perfectly formed, or I really branch out. And I was thinking about potentially taking on staff and really growing. I wanted to take a year, and I'd looked at potentially trying to double the size of my business. And it was at that point where I thought, actually, no, I want to be limited. I want to look like I am almost look like I'm a bigger company than I am to then become that bigger company. And so there was reasons for doing it. I did a huge spreadsheet of the maths of it, which would be more advantageous tax wise and things. And so it is a big decision to make. But starting out, I personally didn't see the need to be a limited company at that point.
I'm just posting a link to the running a practice section of the website. Now, I would certainly advise you, if you're looking at the website, select resources, and underneath that will open up the second level of menu, which has got information about running a practice, anti-money laundering regulations, how to register as a tax agent, a bit of information about payroll, particularly if you're a payroll member, and then obviously the events and the news. Now, it is also worth looking at the job vacancies. Most of them are for employed members, albeit part-time quite often, but some of them are for self-employed bookkeepers, so that's worth having a look at. And even just to see what sorts of jobs clients are looking for and how clients think of them, so that you're not going on and on about these high-level jargonistic terms that just don't resonate with clients. So figure out what it is the client's problem is, and then that's what you can try to solve, and that will really help you when you're pitching to clients as well.
Amy, I am conscious of the time, can I just run through some of the questions that I've seen that I can answer really quickly? Okay, so if you are taken on the payroll of a client, they are not classed as a client. If you're on their payroll, they don't need to be on your AML online. If you are invoicing as a bookkeeper and self-employed bookkeeper, then they need to be on your AML online. They are your client. So I think that answers your question, Flora. Mariam, can you simply update your practice license while changing from sole trader to limited company? Do you need to apply them for a new license? Yes, you do need a new license. You are a separate legal entity to your business. Then it is totally separate to your sole trader. Come and talk to us. You can overlap those two licenses for a period, because getting all your HMRC agent codes and things can take a while. So do come and talk to us. We will help you through that process. It's not a case of just one day being sole trader, the next day being limited company. It's a bit more complicated than that. Sarah Cherry has asked about CPD. There is a section on the website where CPD can be logged. There's a CPD portal. We ask that you do 30 units of CPD, 15 structured, 15 unstructured. An hour of structured is a point. An hour of unstructured is half a point. So in effect, it's 15 hours of structured, 30 hours of unstructured. If you have more than 15 hours of structured, that can count towards your unstructured, but not the other way around. So you have to have at least 15 hours of structured each year. And yeah, log it on the CPD portal. There are instructions on the website. If you've got any further questions about that, just get in touch with member services and we can advise.
And the link.
Can I just piggyback on that, saying I understand that if you go to branches, you attend branches, that is structured, which is another really, really good reason to link into a branch.
Does slightly depend on what the topic is at the branch. If it is just a networking one, that would be unstructured. If there is a presenter, it'd be structured. So yeah, it gets a bit
and Karen Longdon has just asked about the branches. Is there one everywhere? She wants one in South Yorkshire.
I don't believe there is one in South Yorkshire. I think the closest you've got Lincolnshire, which is below, quite a long way below. But they're all virtual at the moment, so just see what's being advertised on the events page. We are looking at refreshing all our branches and getting one everywhere. But we are trying to do that.
And you can ask to speak to Kerry on the phone if you want information about the branches.
Absolutely. Ben, accountancy softwares, lots of them do their own accreditation courses. So I know you can get accredited for QuickBooks, for Xero, all those. So they do their own courses, and it is worth taking out a demo version of each of them to have a play around and find out which one you prefer to use.
They do. There is also a free Xero course called Xero Cert, but it's all theory. It's not actually on the sort of practical course, but all of our courses, to become an ICB member, you have to do a software course of some kind. So you can speak to our training providers, and there is a link in the chat right now for those.
We're being asked about the practice license. If you are a member in practice, you need a practice license with us. There are some circumstances where you don't need money laundering supervision with us, but you do need a practice license. So again, any questions regarding whether you need a license, get in touch with Professional Standards and we will, or member services, just ring up and we will talk you through and work out what your situation is. If we have any more questions about setting up, who at the ICB is best to speak to, ring in, member services will point you in the right direction. And what are the issues for practicing in Scotland?
You probably need to wear
there are different tax.
You probably need to wear an extra jumper because it's a bit cold up there.
But there are different employment taxes, aren't there, Paula, I think?
Yeah, I think that I think it'd be in terms of practicing and the ICB, there's no difference. But of course, there are different Scottish tax laws, so it'd be very important for you to be up to date on them. Suzanne Proctor is on the advisory council representing Scotland, so she is available to you if you have any questions or want to follow up on that. And I think both Edinburgh and Glasgow still have branches. I'm not entirely sure. Mm-hmm. So there's quite a good community up in Scotland for you to link into.
A lovely community. And if you are as far afield as Australia, like Cara is, thank you for joining us. You have missed quite a lot, Cara, I think. Now, just to say, we've got a membership body of lots of members in Australia as well. We are the UK ICB. Now, if you've got, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you could be from the Caribbean, because we know that at least somebody here is. If you've got UK-based clients, you do need to have a UK-based anti-money laundering supervisor, such as us, and you will need to follow our rules about that. And you should probably speak to whoever your local ICB membership is and get some advice on that. Now, the lady from the Caribbean, I'm saying lady, but they're anonymous actually. So the person from the Caribbean says, her local accountancy body was not very quick to recommend joining ICB, but again, you should do it if you've got UK-based clients, and certainly then being part of our community and having UK supervision is really going to support you in your work. But there's no requirement otherwise if you are operating in a different part of the world. Now, we've covered a lot of ground. I'm sure lots of you have loads of questions. So we're going to send a follow-up email that's going to have a recording of this webinar in it, so you can re-watch it at your convenience. We've also got a little worksheet to give you a few pointers on where to start next. We've got a pop-up Facebook group that we'd love you to join so you can continue this conversation. And we've also got another webinar happening at 2 p.m. and that's for new practices. So we're running that monthly now. So when you start your practice, and I hope all of those who are planning to do that this year make it happen. When you start your practice, you are not alone. You are part of a very warm and welcoming community here at ICB. So that's the people at ICB HQ. And as I say, we are committed and passionate about bookkeepers because we know what amazing work you do for the businesses that you support. But you are also going to be part of a very collaborative community of bookkeepers. And I think, I don't know if we've got a final word from each of you, but for me, I believe that the work is out there. And as you said earlier, Paula, businesses know that they need a good bookkeeper now. And with the latest raft of Making Tax Digital coming in 2024, I believe it is now, there are lots of sole traders and landlords who are going to be brought into Making Tax Digital. They desperately need your help. And so there's so much work that our community is not a competitive one. There is a lot of support out there. Do you have anything you'd like to sum up with, Lucy?
I think you've just done it. ICB members are all those in practice are running their own practices, yet you are all colleagues to one another. And that was the real thing I had as a member. It was the collaboration between members and especially within the branch network. So if you do have a local one, get in touch with them. If you don't have a local one, get in touch with your nearest one. They are your colleagues and they will help you. It is a tough business to be in alone, and ICB means you are not alone. So yeah, keep up with your colleagues, join the Facebook groups, and get involved.
Fantastic. Anything to sum up? Paula, thank you so much for joining us today. What would you like to say as a final?
I'd say two things. One is to reiterate the message that Lucy's just given. We're not in competition with each other. It's always interesting when you go to a branch to see the different types of practice, to see different clients, different interests, and actually we work together and we are stronger together. I think that was a political slogan a few years ago, so apologies for that. But literally, you know, we are, the ICB is a community. It is, we are colleagues together, so, you know, don't feel you're in competition. And then just to reiterate the line that there is so much business out there. I am actually having to close my doors at the moment because I can't take on any more business until I find some new bookkeepers. So those of you thinking of getting a practice license, details are there if you're looking to subcontract. Only joking, but I think the whole profession of bookkeeping has gone from sort of the kitchen table to being a very recognised and professional organisation and business. So, you know, one, link into the ICB. There's so much information and resource that you will be given by staying in touch and linking into the branches. And two, just believe in the work you can do, because I've never known so many inquiries, to be honest. And
I finally got the Facebook group URL. So here it is. You can go and join that now and get started and hold each other accountable, step outside of your comfort zone and believe in yourself. You can make this happen and we will help you do it. So thank you ever so much.
Oh, I'm just going to piggyback because I've just seen Helen Smith. Is Kent branch still running? Kent branch is coming back. Watch this space. There you go. That's all I'm
fantastic. That's Paula's branch, isn't it?
It's my branch.
So busted. That's it. That is holding each other accountable in action there. So thank you very much for that. And happy birthday again, Tatiana. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.
Bye.